Hey, we're going to inspect what happens when you navigate to a particular URL in a browser. So let's start with navigating a particular URL. And then you can see that there are so many elements loaded here, right? So there are many images and text and other elements being loaded. So how can browser display all these elements? So now let's right click and inspect the code behind it. Now you can see the HTML code behind it, right? So when you type a URL, what happens is an HTML code is downloaded into your machine, right? And then the browser will parse these lines, okay, all these lines in this HTML code, and the browser understands what has to be displayed, right? So all the elements corresponding to this HTML code are loaded onto the screen, okay? So now think about a scenario. So in your test script using Selenium, you are navigating to a particular web page. Say for example, using driver.get, you are navigating to this particular URL. So what browser does is it will parse all these HTML code and then it will start loading the elements, okay? So it's gonna take some time, right? Because it has to load all the elements into the web page, right? Now, in the very next line, okay, in your test code, suppose you have an action clicking this link, this sign in link, okay? So while loading all these elements, okay, as part of your driver.get command, when you are loading all these, whether the Selenium will wait until all these elements are loaded, because in the very next line, you are attempting to click this element, right? So if this element is not available here, if it is not visible here, what will happen? It's gonna throw an exception, right? Because this element is not present, right? So will Selenium ensure that all the elements are loaded before moving into the next line? So let's understand it. In Selenium, what happens is when it tries to navigate to a particular web page, it will wait until all the elements are loaded completely. Okay, so the driver.get method will wait until everything is loaded. Okay, the whole items on this DOM, this is called DOM, right? Document object model. So everything in the DOM is loaded. But how does Selenium get that information? In fact, the browser maintains a state here, the DOM ready state. So initially, when it starts loading these elements, the ready state of DOM becomes loading. Okay, so once it loaded completely, then it becomes complete. So what Selenium does is it will look for the DOM ready state, and when the DOM ready state is complete, then only it will try to execute the next line. That means the driver.get method will ask the browser to navigate to a particular web page, and then it will wait until all the elements are loaded into the screen. All right. And then only the next statement, if it is like clicking this sign in link, will be performed. Okay. So are we safe? Since everything is loaded already, since all the elements are loaded already, are we safe to perform the next action? No. In most modern so-called single-page applications, what happens is, even after loading all these elements, there could be more actions performed by JavaScript or Ajax calls. Okay, so Selenium won't take care of these events. Okay, so you as a developer need to take care of these actions. So in order to deal with these asynchronous calls, you have to ensure that the element that you are interacting with is in the required state. This is called synchronization. That is, waiting for an element to be on a particular state and ensure that it is interactable. Selenium has got different synchronization techniques and we'll be covering them in the upcoming videos.